ready?
Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Oscar.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And
Now, Bears Etc. brought to you by Miller Lite with the voices of the Bears, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer.
Happy New Year, everybody. 2025 is underway in the NFL and changing landscapes and the shifting tides of personnel, waves of it actually, and it impacts the Bears as well. With Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer, Jeff Joniak, episode 135 of the Bears Etc. podcast, and it's brought to you by Miller Lite. Our teammate from ESPN Chicago, J-Mac, Jason McKie, joins the program later with some instant reaction. He was at Halas Hall meeting Joe Thuney, Jonah Jackson, and Grady Jarrett. Tommy, press conferences were home runs. Everybody buzzing up here. And I got to start with Grady because when you and I get ready for Bears-Falcons games, we were always circling Grady Jarrett. And as much energy he played in those games against the Bears, he had it here at Halas Hall.
Yeah, I love to see it. He's a very good player. He's got great inside instincts and how to play the position of defensive tackle, whether it's the three technique or over the center. And I'm glad he brought in a lot of enthusiasm because to me, enthusiasm is contagious. And that's the type of smile, effort, production that you need around some of these younger defensive linemen. And I like to see that Grady Jarrett is still as excited to be a player in his young 30s than he was, in his young 20s. But to me, because of the NFL and the way they work these guys, 32 is the new 27. So I still have high expectations for him and to be super productive.
Last season, he played nearly 67% of the snaps in Atlanta at age 31, coming off an ACL the year before when he only played 8 games. That was the first time he really had a serious injury like that. The Eagles, just as a matter of reference, only had one defensive lineman do that all last year. That was Jalen Carter. So what would you prescribe in terms of amount of snaps on a percentage basis for a guy like that on the rotation?
Well, what down is he primarily going to be used for? Because when you look at last year, Andrew Billings, and he played 8 games, he played 297 snaps in those 8 games. So now you think of, okay, now we got 2 guys that kind of play similar positions. Or is he going to work in there with Javon Dexter, who in his 15 games, he played 616 snaps. So now we got to figure, okay, we're not expecting you to play 17 games a year in every snap if you're a defensive lineman. How do you contribute most efficiently to the type of system we like to run on the right down and distances? So I think when you take everything into consideration, the type of talent, where he lines up best, the vulnerabilities of the offensive line you're playing against, playing at home or on the road, I think there's a spot for everybody. But the enthusiasm and the competitiveness and the experience that he's bringing, I think, can expedite the younger guys that he's going to be working with on a daily basis.
This podcast is brought to you by the official beer partner of your Chicago Bears. Tastes like Miller Time Chicago. Go to MillerLite.com/BearsPod to find delivery options near you. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Listening to the trio of Jarrett, Jonah Jackson, and Joe Thuney, Tommy, 2 of them were traded. One was released on the same day he signed with the Bears. I don't know how much interest there was outside of that right away, but the Bears were poised to strike, and Ryan Poles, Matt Feinstein, all those guys deserve credit for adjusting on the fly and being able to strike on a player that is widely regarded for his leadership and his intensity and his desire to be great at this age. So there's a lot here, but nobody complained about it. They want to be here. You didn't hear one guy. The media was pressuring them with questions about, does this sit with you wrong? Are you going to take it? Is this going to give you more motivation because you were let go or traded? The answer is no for these guys. These guys appear to be mature veteran thinkers. They're excited to be here.
Listen, these guys are serious NFL businessmen. They're not just players and had success over the course of their career. They understand what goes in in the business of football day in and day out. Yeah, so 24 hours after the fact, and you may be a little kind of nervy about it, but as soon as you pull up 1920 Drive, man, and you see the campus of the Chicago Bears, you got to be re-inspired. Then you walk into that hallway, you walk into that building, and you get introduced to Halas Hall a little bit. It's inspiring. So I think these guys, when they have the next leg of their career, what's the next adventure in their business of football? How can you not be excited about what you see up there? And then you think about the investment that the management has been making in the offense and defensive line. And every one of these guys know the role of the offense and defensive line in the success of a football team. So they got to be super excited about some of the counterparts that are already here, but what they can contribute to this team immediately.
Also, it's Chicago. I mean, think about it. It's a great city. They bring their wives to these things. They're all here. They're going to be excited about being in Chicago. A great city, place to go get some great food downtown, beautiful lakefront, then you name it. It's a great place to live, as we find out from players who play here and then grow their families here and never leave.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty amazing city how the players can be attached to the communities in which they grow up through when they're playing for the Chicago Bears, and then a lot of these guys never leave. But like you said, it's kind of the way they feel about not only Chicago downtown, but the surrounding communities and the communities they live in. So I think the excitement is only beginning. And for these guys that maybe have a young family and they go out there and, drive around and get introduced to a little bit of the territory, it's got to be an exciting time. Just like it was for me when I got cut by Chicago and went down to Miami. Every day was exciting because every day was new for me because it's something I did not know.
Thank you to our partners, CDW and Lenovo. Make amazing happen. Learn more at cdw.com/Lenovo. All right, I was thinking of you when Ben Johnson spoke briefly with the media here at Halas Hall. When he was talking about the interior of the offensive line, he goes, especially the interior, I need smart guys. Smart guys on the interior that can handle multiple schemes, concepts, versatility, the whole range. And Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson check those boxes. And Drew Dahlman will check that box when he is introduced on Thursday at Halas Hall. So when you say amen to that, explain to the listener why that trio is so valuably important. Yes, all five have to work together, but that trio inside.
Well, so one of them just brought up the fact, I think maybe it was Grady talking about getting ready to go to OTAs. So you go to OTAs with a new group of offensive linemen and you start installing the playbook. And then it goes step by step, down by down, field position per field position, time on the clock, so on and so forth. And so, when you have guys that have this type of experience, you can install a play in OTAs or early in training camp, and you may never go to it until that opportunity comes at you in the course of a game and you need the biggest play of the season, or you want to capture, maybe your opponent a little bit off guard. So these guys aren't going to have to be fed information every single day. It's something that you can feed them information 4 months ago and then bring it up inside the script of the plays, or maybe even calling it on the sideline. So when you have these experience, these guys know how to be mentally and physically prepared. This is not something that you're inviting them into the NFL. They've been around the NFL for quite a while.
Technically skilled, and adaptability. I would say that was your game too, along with strength, power, because whatever their sizes are, these guys are technicians. Jonah obviously was playing out of position last year at center. Then he got banged up. Then it re-aggravated throughout the course of the year. But playing right guard, and the other guy, Joe Thuney, playing at left guard, as Ben said, just go, knock down that three technique and let us have some breathing room. So how important is that technician aspect of it?
Oh, it's super important because first of all, you got to throw the center in there because rarely do the three guys in the middle work against a defensive line unless they're all working together. So you know exactly where the strength of your double team is going to be according to the point of attack. You know that sometimes you're a guard that has an individual assignment with a tough block, but it's been made before in his career, and he's able to carry out that assignment when you install that play during the course of the week. But gosh, Lee, Caleb Williams, he's got to be the guy that's super excited about it, because whether you're talking about play action pass and you can give the simulation of a run because of the experiences these guys have, or just looking for the immediate contact for pass protection to give that quarterback time to get to his drop step and have a little bit of time in the huddle. But the versatility mentally of all these players, they know how to prepare from OTAs, how it carries through to training camp and onto the regular season.
Joe Thuney's played every position in football. He played center in college for a while. Obviously, left tackle last year. In college, he played right tackle, right guard, left tackle. I mean, and Brandon Thorne is a guy who writes about the trenches on both sides of the ball. He's becoming quite a name for himself. I heard a quote from him that's fantastic. Joe Thuney, quote, has mastered the art of dying slowly in his anchor, the constant refit. And what that means, feet and hands married together, get those hands inside, right? I mean, do I have that right?
Yeah, of course. The things that there are certain traits and elements and fundamentals that are usable no matter what position you're lining up in. But then there are certain traits and fundamentals and techniques that are only for the position that you're playing at that specific time. So to take the things that you've learned and you have a foundation in playing guard, and how does that transfer out into tackle? You're able to use it. You may not have the template body of an offensive tackle, but you still have the skill, the athleticism, and the intelligence to play the position. Just like if you move over to center and you're able to anchor the center of the offensive line, even though that's not your priority position, but you can still play it well. So the Bears have a real asset in Joe Thuney, because every single player that is on this football team in the depth department of the offensive line, they can go to Joe Thuney and ask him an offensive line question.
Yeah, Jonah Jackson in a separate side interviews, he was talking about just how impactful Joe Thuney is, and that's football royalty right there. And, this is crazy, and we'll hear this with Jason McKie here in a minute, but you did the Matthews experiment. That's what I'm calling it.
Right.
I tell your story constantly now. 77 years of combined seasons, 1 Super Bowl win for the Matthews family. This guy's got 4 rings in 6 Super Bowls. His career record, he's won 75% of the games he's been in. His record is 125-42. Unreal. 167. Yep. That's postseason and regular season. Nobody wins 75% of the time in the National Football League. You put that guy in this locker room now, there's one guy right there that's going to show you how you win. Grady Jarrett, he's going to show you how to win too, just by his work ethic and the way he is. So, hey, Bears fans, Steinhoffel's is a proud partner of the Chicago Bears and now open in Orland Park. Steinhoffel's, a Chicagoland furniture and mattress leader with the largest selection to fit every style and budget, and is 100% employee-owned. Shop in-store and online at steinhoffels.com. We'll hopefully hear from Dahlman on our Bears Thursday Night Bears Weekly radio show. I'm really intrigued by him as well. Young, Tom, we're going to learn more about him. We could talk about it on that show, but this guy is also physical, but his ability to be relentless and get up to the second level, these 3 guys together, I think, as they get some time on task together, could be really, really impactful, man. Really impactful.
One thing about Dahlman and Grady is my brother-in-law, John Scully, played 11 years down with the Atlanta Falcons, and they used to have training camp in Swanee, Georgia. And so I used to go and I would be there. I was there for multiple training camps, and I couldn't believe how hot it was, Jeff. I was thinking to myself as I was sitting on the sideline going, oh, my God, how do these guys do this twice a day, full pads every day, and make it through this heat? And so when I think of Grady and I think of Dahlman, I think of these guys coming to the Midwest for a training camp that's on beautifully manicured natural grass fields. It is going to be like refreshing to them to go out there for that morning practice when it's still 70 degrees. I know we get hot weather and sometimes it's hot.
It's hot, but it's not soupy like it is in Sewanee.
It's not from my multiple years of experience of going down there for training camp. And that was one of the first things I wanted to ask Grady, was just about the conditions that he suffered throughout training camp.
All right, let's listen in to Jason McKie, our partner on the Bears radio broadcast. It's Jeff, Tom, and J-Mac, and we'll be back with him this season. J-Mac with his perspective on what he heard and saw at Halas Hall. All right, here with J-Mac. Missing you, buddy.
Yeah,
but it's football season now. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year, man.
Happy New Year. We're shaking hands, everybody.
Yeah,
We're shaking hands because it is the first day of the new league year.
Yeah.
And the Bears, as has been the case with Ryan Poles, striking quickly. I just want your overall, because it's one thing to hear about it, one thing to watch their highlights, one thing to meet them and watch them in the setting.
Yeah.
So the three guys the Bears brought out today, Joe Thuney, a very established, highly decorated offensive guard, Jonah Jackson, moving on from the LA Rams. These are both trades. And then Grady Jarrett gets cut one day, and the same day he's a Bear.
Yeah.
So what's your consensus opinion of what you hear from these three guys? Because I think those are going to be three of your leaders.
Yeah, I think the excitement level about, how them guys feel about joining this organization. You hear Grady Jarrett talk about him being a 2-time Walter Payton Man of the Year, but then actually walking into the facility, Jeff, and actually, seeing, the murals of Walter Payton on the wall. And he says, man, I didn't know I had that much Chicago Bears pride in me. That really fired me up because, these guys come to a new team, and obviously he was a stalwart in Atlanta for a long time, but him being here, he understands, the passion, the commitment, the success, and what this organization is supposed to look like, and he knows the amount of pressure is going to be placed on him to help take this team to the next level. So I think when you look at all three of these guys, and particularly look at Thuney and Grady, you look at Thuney, a guy who's won 4 Super Bowls, a guy who's
been to 6.
Yeah, exactly, been to 6 and won 4, and a guy who's been around a great organization, an organization that's a consistent winner. So I think he's going to bring that type of pedigree to the locker room, to the meetings, to everything in terms of the details in the building and the way that the offensive line goes out and approaches things on a daily basis, because he's seen a consistent winner. He knows what success looks like because he's been a part of it for a long time. And I think that there's no value that you can place upon that. And on top of that, the type of player he is. So, if you get the best of both worlds and, bring a guy in like Jonah Jackson who has that familiarity with Ben Johnson, who's been in that offense, who understands Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson understands him. And yes, he even talked about it as hiccup in LA last year, but he gets a new opportunity, a fresh start with a coach that he's familiar with, that's now the head coach, and I think the arrow is pointing up for him as well.
I just love when Ben Johnson took the microphone and he is hammering home this physical, violent, nasty, dirty.
I love it.
I mean, he's saying it every single chance he gets.
Yes.
Is he talking it into existence?
Yes. I mean, the first thing, they asked him, what type of traits did you look for in an offensive line? And he said, dirty. My eyes lit up. Because, I'm used to dirty here. With the guys we had, they were dirty, they were gritty, they were every adjective that you want an offensive lineman to be. Mm-hmm. I don't want a nice offensive lineman. You know what I'm saying? I want a guy that's gonna, that whistle blows. He's gonna give it an extra push, or he's gonna drop an extra elbow on you on the pile. Like, those are the type of guys you want that are culture builders, that are tone setters, right? But they're gonna kick, on Sunday, Monday, or whenever we're playing, even if it's Thursday, they're gonna kick some tail. And Ben Johnson understands what it takes to be successful. He understands what drives an offense, and that's what he had in Detroit, and that's what he's trying to really up front replicate here. And, bringing in these guys, he said, that have those qualities, it's a great start for him.
Yeah, I also have maintained that this is a trait we don't talk enough about, but the intelligence level of in football intelligence. Yeah. Intelligence, period, is also important. Coaches love smart players because then they can get more creative. They can throw more on the plate. Thuney clearly is that. Yeah. Jonah Jackson clearly is that, and Jonah's got experience with him. How about you tell me, from a football player's perspective, underscore the importance of just that smart, quote, limiting errors, mental errors.
Yeah, exactly. When you have a high mental aptitude of the game of football, and you're able to retain information that's being presented to you, during installs on a daily basis, it just makes that offense or whatever, it just makes that scheme, even better, because the coach can give you more. So the more he can give you, the more that scheme will be transcended. The more you can put on a defense, the more you can put on offense, the more different looks and different things that you can present on a daily basis, in games. And I think with the creativity that we've seen from Ben Johnson there in Detroit, he's a creative mind. You hear Jonah Jackson talk about he's a wizard. And, I know he wants to put a lot on these guys. I know how he wants his offense to be, unpredictable. But you can only put in so much in terms of what your players can retain. So you bring in high-level, high IQ guys. Now that's the more complex your offense can be and the more points you score. So, having those guys, the physical attributes, I think the mental makeup of each player is really important, because now that can really dictate what type of scheme that you're running and how much you can put on offense or defense, each and every week.
One of the most impressive things I heard from all three guys. So they didn't have a choice, except Grady did. They got traded.
Yeah.
All right. So that leaves a player a little bit, I'm sure, a little bit miffed, a little bit edgy about it, especially long careers. Jonah just signed a big deal with the Rams. They decided this was not going to be the place for me. You've been down this road, what do you think they're really feeling? I mean, because, granted, it doesn't matter. Now, I mean, they're excited to be Bears.
Yeah.
But does that kind of reset the body, the mind, the spirit a little bit, especially for Grady, 10 years, 11 years in Atlanta?
Yeah, I mean, he talked about it. He said he didn't really, they were drilling him with questions.
I mean, they were peppering him.
Yeah, they were going.
Like the media here, they're going to do that. Like they want to get something out there in the headlines that's going to make their way to Atlanta, Kansas City, and L.A. for the Rams. But none of them bit.
No, he shut it down. He said, I'm not diverting any energy to the Falcons. All my energy and focus is on this team, this organization, my teammates, my performance. And that's awesome. You know what I mean? I know it stung a guy who's been, a pillar in that community. I think isn't he from Georgia as well?
He's from Atlanta. He's
from Atlanta, his hometown. And he said, you know what? Atlanta is always going to be my home, even if I'm not there. And it is. But I think the fact that you can see the excitement in his press conference in terms of him, relishing at the opportunity of getting a fresh start, being able to not really reinvent himself, but to go back and prove himself, because he was one of the dominant defensive tackles in the league.
Every time we played, I mean, Tom Thayer, we're talking about we're going to be doing this 3 technique. Like this is what we talked about was Grady Jarrett. Like,
and I've been a fan. I've been a fan of his for a long time. Like, this guy's a stud, and to actually see him here at Halas Hall,
he lit up the building.
Yeah, he did. He gave me goosebumps. He got me fired up. I was going to go down there and go talk to T-Med and see if I can get my locker back, because he's one of the guys I would love to play with, and not now I'm retired. I wouldn't want to go against him in practice. I mean, he's at the top of his game, but I think he's going to bring a lot of energy, a lot of juice to the team, but he's also going to bring a lot of accountability and leadership to that locker room, something that was much needed that we've seen the past few years.
Refresh my memory. I know you played multiple. Were you traded?
No, I got released here and then ended up going to the Ravens.
Okay. Yeah. So you didn't ever get traded in your career.
No.
So, I just wonder, from a player's perspective, no one likes the feeling of getting cut.
Yeah.
And Grady was let go.
Yeah.
And I get it. You can't stay forever, but the Bears benefit from that. Here's a stat for you. Joe Thuney. This is crazy town. Granted, he played with Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. They're both Hall of Famers. They're going to be Hall of Famers. 6 of his 9 years, he's in the Super Bowl.
Unbelievable.
So his winning percentage, playoffs and regular season, is 75%. His record when he's on the field is 125-42.
That's unbelievable.
I dare say, on the roster, you'd be hard pressed to find that many wins combined.
Yeah, I'll say add them up. I mean,
125 by one man.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and he's played consistently excellent his whole career. He's allowed, and this is according to statistics that are provided, who's to say it was his responsibility playing guard? Obviously, you're more aware of tackle when he's played, where he played 333 snaps last year. He's only allowed 14 sacks in 167 games. I mean, that's dominant.
Yeah, he's proven.
Technician.
Yeah, he's proven. I mean, he's proven. The production is there. You hear Ryan Post talk about the leadership and what he's going to bring to that locker room. I think, despite the play, I think, what all 3 of these guys bring, they bring that accountability. They bring that leadership. They understand how to uphold the culture. I think they're all culture builders, just like some of the coaches that Ben Johnson has brought in the building. I think a lot of these guys are culture builders. Eric Bieniemy is a culture builder. Al Harris, a guy who, I'm familiar with my rookie year in Philly, a guy who I looked up to, is a culture builder. And I'm really excited about those coaches in the building. But I'm excited because now, just not having the coaches being able to develop these players, now you have players that have played at a high level that want to take ownership in developing young talent. You heard Grady talk about that in his press conference as well. He said, hey, you know what? I get an opportunity. I'm hungry, but I get to pass my hunger down to some of these young guys. So now other guys are going to benefit from having Grady Jarrett in that meeting room. Javon Dexter, Zach Pickens. I mean, Austin
You know
Booker.
what? The funny
all these
thing
guys.
is, you look like you do want to be on the roster.
I do.
can
I
see-
do. I'm jealous. I'm jealous, Jeff.
You're jealous
jealous,
of what
man.
the meeting room is going to be like.
Man,
you're jealous of how practice is going to be
Yeah.
because he's gonna be making some noise.
It's gonna be. It's it's just refreshing, and I'm excited to see how mini camps and how OTAs go, just to see how Ben Johnson runs a practice, and just to see like what type of standard and expectation is being put in, because we've seen it the past few years. Like,
Well, they say he's intense.
yeah, and you
Every
can
guy.
tell. You can tell, and I'm excited. I'm really excited for this team, this organization, and when we leave here, I'm going to go up to Ryan Poles' office and say, hey, man, you need a fullback. I'll give you
maybe
5 plays.
I'll give you a camp body. I'll give you a camp body.
5 plays. That's it.
Let's talk about him and then wrap us up. And thank you for doing this. The idea that Ryan has stated, and try to be salary cap friendly, be flexible, because somebody might get bumped that you weren't expecting and you want to strike, and they clearly did with Grady.
Yeah.
But leaning on relationships of his own in Kansas City and his own in Detroit for Ben Johnson to get the 2 guards, it just gives him a clean road ahead to work the draft. And he's not done in free agency. There'll be some bargain buys coming up here as well to fill out this roster. But just what he and Matt Feinstein, the salary cap expert here, has been able to provide. The Bears have been very flexible and on that rookie contract for the quarterback. Can't dismiss that. That's why you got to strike hot now.
Yeah, exactly. He talked about it. Even when he was in Indy, he talked about wanting to revamp this offensive line, and it's good to see the action put behind the words. You know what I'm saying? And he did it. He's able to revamp the offensive line through free agency, and now there's so much flexibility, especially in the first round at number 10, but also what you can do in this draft. And like he said, as long as he's continuing to try to bring in players that's going to improve this roster. Best player available. I think he's put himself and this organization in a great position to be competitors in the draft and free agency year after year since he's been here. So it's been exciting to see how he's built this thing up, and I'm excited to see where this team will go this year.
All right, it's Jeff, Tom, and J-Mac on Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays. So miss you, brother. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Bear down.
I was talking to him about, obviously, there at the end about, was he? I didn't recall if he was ever traded. He wasn't. You weren't ever traded either, but you guys were let go, and just that instant of upsetness, right, or whatever you want. You want to call it anger? Go ahead. I'm trying to be kind. But these 3 guys, as I mentioned earlier in this podcast, they're about being a Bear, and I really appreciate that. You might get other positions, other guys that maybe don't have that leadership ability to sit there. They go up there, they may complain a little bit. Oh, I'm gonna get them back. They're going to put out their quotable material that's going to find its way back to places. But these guys did not, and I really respect how they handled themselves at the podium here today.
Yeah, these guys are pros. That's what I said. They're not going to be introduced to the business of the NFL. They're going to be introduced to making sure they can get themselves into the best possible physical shape that they can be in, how they can get more strength out of the weight room. In the minute that they walk on the practice field for OTAs with no pads or training camp and full pads, then they have to put their talents and their experiences on display. And the offensive line coach is going to be excited to see this, and every one of their teammates are. But by the time they get into training camp and they put that jersey on for the first time, then they're going to be Chicago Bear veterans. And that's what you're probably going to, the expectations for what they add and what they lend and how they help this team develop, it's going to rise.
This podcast is brought to you by the official beer partner of your Chicago Bears. Tastes like Miller Time, Chicago. Go to MillerLite.com/BearsPod to find delivery options near you. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. All right, let's take a look at some other news from the Bears. So Drew Dahlman will be talking to the media. What do you think of the addition at the tight end position with Smythe? Young man out of Miami.
Listen, I love it. The tight end has a big role in an offense by Ben Johnson. Their short yardage goal line, their third down, first, second, third down, the running game, on the line blockers. The thing about it is the growth of the offense kind of goes a lot of times through what the tight end can contribute, because you have the downfield threats and DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, and the rest of the receivers, and then you have the running game and what the offensive line can do there. But if you have that tight end in that intermediate zone, that's not only a reliable outlet pass, but a guy that catches across the middle with courage, and then when they have a big online assignment against a talented defensive end and they can pull that off, they can pull that assignment off, it expands where your point of attacks can come from and what your running game can do.
Durham Smythe is some time spent with Ben Johnson in Miami. At that time, Ben was the assistant receivers coach, but certainly could speak for the player. Now, back on the defensive line, coming over from the Colts, the 25-year-old Dio Odangbo. This guy's got every tool in the shed. He's got the body length. He's 6'6", long, explodes off the ball. He's had, I think, 37 pressures the last 2 years, not just sacks, but pressures, which, by the way, was quickly pointed out by Jared that he leads the Falcons franchise in pressures as well. Right. But this is a great situation for this young man because you've got a veteran like him, Grady Jarrett, obviously different positions, although Dio can play inside as well. You got a Montez Sweat who's got time in the lead also. This is great for a 25-year-old to get hit the free agent market for the first time, get a team that loves him up right away, and he's got nothing but open road ahead of him.
Right, and he should be in Montez's Sweat hip pocket, trying to learn everything he can about an arsenal of a pass rusher. He's got the template that you want to have in an outside defensive end that can cover a lot of ground during the run game and the pass game. And then you have a guy like Austin Booker, and I think he's got a nice arsenal of pass rush moves. So when you start combining all these efforts together and you start working together on the practice field, doing one-on-ones or doing group pass rushes, you can learn a lot from each other. And I think that from what I've seen out of Grady in that short interview of Pars is he is a excited alpha male. Right. And I think if he brings in that enthusiasm, and we've seen it out of big Billings already, that you have a couple of guys in the middle of this defense that they want to do their job. And they do their job well. So one thing about the exterior players on this defense, and I'm going to throw Javon Dexter in there, that, man, your production can increase significantly. Richard
Hightower gets to keep several of his key players on special teams. Josh Blackwell signs to an extension. Also, Amin Agbagbamiga gets a 2-year deal with the Bears. Both were at the top of the charts, along with Daniel Hardy in special teams tackles. And then Tarvarius Moore. I mean, I thought he was an underrated player on special teams. That's where he primarily played, but he gives you some cushion on the defensive side of the ball as well if you need a guy who's played in this league for a while. Different takes on it, I guess you could say, but when you get core special teamers, they're in demand out there. So these are also very strong decisions, in my opinion.
Well, two guys, Blackwell and Hardy, though both of those guys stand out. And you think of what both of those guys were able to do, and I don't know what Dominique Robinson's status is at this point, but he's also a big athlete contributor. But Hightower, hey, man, he deserves these players, too, that can come in and be the core of his special teams, because that's something that he's going to start developing in OTAs, and it's going to carry all the way through to the final cut at the end of training camp. And then there will be probably a few guys brought in that may be contributors on the special team. So that's a job that's never done. You know, you could be a position coach in any other position. You say, man, my room is set. I'm ready to go. Let's rock and roll. You can be a special teams coach, and it can change within a matter of hours before kickoff.
And Scott Daly expected to return as long snapper. Hey, listen, man, Pat Scales did a heck of a job here. And he was the longest tenured Bear, I believe, as I'm thinking about this out loud. And what a great personality, great leader in that locker room, fun guy to be around. But another local guy from Downers Grove, this is how it happens with long snappers, right? Once you get the opportunity, he might be here for 15 years.
Hopefully so. Here's a guy that's paid his dues, and he's been waiting in the wings and climbing that ladder of opportunity since he became a long snapper. And you don't know if your number's ever going to be called, because there's guys out there. I go to high school games every week, and I see guys in the high school teams that are good long snappers, but it never, goes through the college and then the professional process. And then when you see every one of these leagues and teams around the country, you're always searching for that position, because when anybody that thinks that they could be a long snapper in the NFL, go outside, grab a football, set it down, throw it between your legs accurately 15 yards, and then get hit in the noggin. Show me how many people can do it.
Are aches, pains, or injuries keeping you on the sidelines? I guess long snapping might do that to you. Athletico's movement experts are here to help you turn your setbacks into comebacks and create a personalized game plan for your recovery with no prescription or referral needed. Athletico Physical Therapy is where your comeback story begins. Athletico, proud to be the official physical therapy partner of the Chicago Bears. Before we wrap up, Ryan Poles at his brief news conference basically saying everything's opened up now for the draft. They filled some holes, and now they can work the board the way they feel appropriate. And I mean, it's been suggested that's the case. So I think it gives him a lot of ammunition, and really no one really knowing what he's going to do.
Right. Well, that's you want to be at a poker table with a hand that nobody sees, but you have a lot of options. You don't want to be folding your cards already and saying, okay, I'm out. I just have to sit here and wait till the next hand is folded. Ryan has an opportunity really to negotiate this draft and really field every phone call that comes at him, and then see what player that he likes the most at his time to pick. And if you've got to, take advantage of that opportunity, then do it.
And then lastly, Kyler Gordon, the Ed Block Courage Award winner at the McCaskey Scholarship Fund luncheon at Maryville Academy on Wednesday. I was there to host that, MC that rather, and it was great seeing him. He was so excited about what is being done. He's excited about Dennis Allen. I was blowing him up. I got to say, man, you are an outstanding blitzer. I want to see. He goes, I want to blitz more. So, I'm excited. You should have seen how happy he was. He was just so excited about what's going on here.
It's one of the best, neatest awards in the NFL and for the Chicago Bears, and it's such a sign of respect from your teammates in the front office and everything. And listen, everybody here that's ever come across Kyler Gordon has enjoyed what he's been able to accomplish so far, what he's going to contribute in the future, and we wish all the success in the world for him.
Yeah, me too. He's a great dude, that's for sure. We're brought to you by PNC, official bank of the Bears. That's going to do it for us. We'll talk to you on Bears Weekly on Thursday night with Jim Miller, the former Bears quarterback, and hope to have some guests involved as well with that. So free agency is now wide open. Expect more. Hey, now it's bargain shopping time for players and teams around the NFL as the Bears get, huh?
Don't call anybody a bargain.
No, I'm saying, though, that you know what I mean. Compared to the big prices, the sticker shock is wearing off a little bit. And the quarterback carousel, we'll keep an eye on that one, too. I guess Aaron Rodgers was walking the beach with a blanket, contemplation about where he wants to do his next thing, or if ever. It's interesting to see how this quarterback carousel goes. It's the most interesting part of the offseason every year. It's just crazy. It's just like it's a carousel.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, free agency, they talk about it weeks in advance. They talk about the no tampering. They talk about we're almost there. And then you get all these deals and the subway deals that you never hear about.
Yep, for sure. For Tom Thayer, and thanks to our special guest, Jason McKie, I'm Jeff Joniak. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please subscribe now to the official Chicago Bears app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bear down, everybody.